everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of News for Normies, where I bring you a week's worth of news in a relatively short time frame. And I say relatively this week because we've got a lot to talk about. So, if you have some normies in your life, hit that like button, share, comment, make sure you're subscribed. And this one may get flagged on YouTube for copyright for a clip I'm going to use later on in the video. So make sure you're following me on Rumble and Spotify. Those two platforms don't flag people for, simply using a video with other, audio, music in it and stuff like that. So give YouTube the finger, fight the culture war with your dollars. Make sure you're subscribed on Rumble and or Spotify. Also, links for everything I talk about are going to be below. That way I am not just making up stuff out of thin air. So with that, let us get started. Going to start locally again this week. Cincinnati, Ohio has been a hotbed of news and controversy as of late. If we think back to May when the Jazz Festival happened, Cincinnati came into the spotlight. And again, recently, as I talked about last week. Well, because the Cincinnati Police Department has failed to take care of criminals in the city, arresting them when they commit crimes, Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Thietke has been placed on administrative leave, with Assistant Chief Adam Henney being named interim police chief for the time being. This is a good first step at curtailing, overall crime within the city, as it is affecting local businesses. If your city is rampant with crime, people don't want to come there and spend their money. So then businesses close, you have less people wanting to come there, and it's just a snowball effect from there. Now, I think personally she just needs to be fired outright because she is completely inept at her job. Blaming social media for the Jazz Festival beatdown that happened. And this past week she said that people just need to learn how to behave. Well, I agree on that point, but however, people don't know how to behave even as adults. That's why the police are there. So that is your job, is to make sure that people do behave. It's sad, but that's the truth. So if you are watching from Cincinnati and you want change for the better, look at who's been in office for a while. Look at how they vote and what policies they put forward, and vote for somebody different in the future. You can change these things. You just have to get out and make it happen. Peacefully elect people. Don't go shooting at, law enforcement, and that will come up later in the video. Moving on. This story was one that I had to force myself to actually talk about because I really do not give a shit about professional sports at all. Football, soccer, basketball. I'll go to hockey games every once in a while with friends just to hang out, have a beer, and a good time. So I really do not care about this, but I do find it a little interesting because of who all is involved. So NBA coach Chauncey Billups, among several other high-profile NBA stars, were arrested recently for wire fraud, words are hard, money laundering, and other various charges for allegedly rigging NBA games and poker games at, not just at homes, but at, I think, casinos too. The investigation is taking place across 11 states and also involves several mob families. Yes, that is the part I find interesting. The old school New York style mafia families are also involved in this. Which is kind of funny because the other day I was actually thinking, you don't hear much about the mob anymore. Well, here we go. So, I don't know. I was about to say, did I manifest this? Like I'm a white girl sipping pumpkin spice lattes and Ugg boots, but this investigation's been going on for 4 years. So, Also, quick side note, anyone who's blaming Trump for this, listen to what I just said. It's been going on for 4 years. Trump has been in office again since January of this year. Math means that this was going on while Biden was still president. End of story there. Now, I know some people have said this, but this kind of also reminds me of the Pete Rose controversy back in the day, but at a much larger scale. And in the case of Pete Rose, he claimed he claimed to only be betting on the Cincinnati Reds to win, never betting against his own team. Unlike in the case with the NBA thing, they were just betting to make money. So I think, in my opinion, my professional amateur opinion, if you do watch professional basketball, maybe lay off the sports betting for a little bit, because anytime a crime like this is uncovered, it is the one that got through. There may be other stuff like this going on, so but do what you want with your own money. That's your decision. I don't watch sports, so I have no stake in this. Now, something that does concern me, and this is very, very ironic, Don Lemon has now called for people to buy guns.
Black people, brown people of all stripes, whether you're an Indian American or a Mexican American or whoever you are, go out in your place where you live and get a gun legally, get a license to carry legally. Because when you have people knocking on your door and taking you away without due process as a citizen, isn't that what the Second Amendment was written for? Go back and read what the Second Amendment says. And perhaps it will knock some sense in the heads of these people who are saying, well, it's all great. I don't believe they're doing it without due process. They're asking people for papers. They're not really beating people up. These people are doing things that are illegal. Nobody is illegal. It is a misdemeanor to cross the border.
So it's funny how the left is now on board with the Second Amendment, even though for the last, I don't know, 30 years or so, they've been completely against it, but also highly ironic that when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, Democrats immediately started calling for gun control before any details emerged. Anytime, I'm just going to leave it there. I'm beating a dead horse into glue at that point. Anyway, it's funny that yet again, the left is advocating for foreign people who are not supposed to be here legally, but now they're advocating for armed conflict to do it. So I would encourage you who are watching or listening to this to buy firearms yourself legally. If your state requires it, get your CCW. I would encourage you to do so anyway, because interstate travel could cause issues if you don't have a CCW. Train, and obviously don't attack law enforcement. When you fuck around, you find out, as somebody is going to learn later in this video. Well, technically they already have, but you know what I mean. So that moves me to my next thing. A protester, and I use that term loosely here, at a No Kings rally in Chicago, is on camera calling for the death of DHS and ICE officers.
You gotta grab a gun. We gotta turn around the guns on this fascist system. These ICE agents gotta get shot and wiped out. The state machinery, that's a full display right there, has to get wiped out.
So, in case you didn't quite understand that, he said, quote, "You gotta grab a gun, we gotta turn around the guns on the fascist system. The ICE agents gotta get shot and wiped out. The same machinery that's on full display right there has to get wiped out," end quote. That was the guy saying it, not me, in case anybody wants to take this out of context 5 years from now. So that was the other guy saying it. But, people will take things out of context all the time. So, as I've been telling you people, this isn't just a fringe group of leftists calling for this type of armed action. As Don Lemon just said, and this guy just said, and that we've seen over the last 6 months or so, this is mainstream beliefs of the left. Okay, in general, this is mainstream leftist theology. That is the only way to describe it, is theology. I need a sip of tea. Now, if you think this is just a problem in places like Portland or Chicago, well, you would be mistaken, because the next story involves a person at their home. A liberal accountant from Georgia, the state, showed up to a Trump supporter's personal residence in North Carolina and tried to kill him. Now, this story somehow flew under the radar, but has been gaining attention lately. And this happened on September 6th of this year. So 4 days before Charlie Kirk was killed. But that's even more concerning given the recent political tensions. So here's the clip of what actually happened.
Man, park at the business, then go across the street and tear down the Trump banner off of a sign. Now, this is from last month at the Paddle Inn Rafting Company in Swain County, North Carolina. The owner told Fox Carolina that he saw this happening live and went outside and fired his rifle twice in the air. Then, as the man drove off, video shows him raising his gun out of the sunroof of the car. See that there? The deputies say the suspect, Benjamin Campbell, is the man with the gun that you see in this video. Earlier this week, Swain County deputies traveled to Georgia.
So, to add some more details to this, Benjamin Michael Campbell, the guy who was tearing down that Trump flag, was driving through North Carolina and saw that and decided, fuck you, fuck you, I ain't having that. So, which is amazing because he feels like he's so above the law or, better than you because of his beliefs. Weird how that works. So he tries to tear this sign down, or this flag, whatever. And when the homeowner, Mark Thomas, saw what was going on, he fired some warning shots to defend his property. Then Campbell, the guy in the car that was tearing down the sign, deranged lunatic, started driving off with his hand out the sunroof, firing back. Now, thankfully, the homeowner was not hit, but, he could have had wife, kids in the house. Somebody could have been shot. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. But this is still very, very concerning. And this should go without saying, do not follow the advice of former Vice President Joe Biden and fire 2 warning shots in the air, because that is illegal in most states, if not all of them. So, don't fire warning shots. It's going to land you in legal trouble too. But this is concerning that somebody just showed up to, a random person's home and did this. It's why I don't have, Trump signs in my yard or on my car or anything like that, because this kind of shit could happen anywhere. So we're not done with this kind of thing either. A school teacher in Chicago was at a No Kings protest mocking the death of Charlie Kirk, as you'll see here.
Hey! You ever heard of Ozempic, you fat ass?
So, from what the internet sleuths have uncovered, this woman allegedly is Lucy Martinez from Nathan Hale Elementary School in the Chicago area. And funny enough, once this went viral and her name in the school was found out, the school's social media page, presence was just shut down. So, kind of funny, weird at the same time. Not sure if they've made a comment as of now. Probably won't, if I had to guess. However, people like this are amongst us in society and are spending upwards of 8 hours per day with your children. So that should also be concerning to anyone watching. And as I've stated before about people like this, she should be fired and blacklisted from ever being a teacher again. I think it was several months ago, way before Charlie Kirk was killed, there was a teacher at a school district not too far from where I live who was saying, that people should try to hurt Trump or Trump supporters or whatever. I'm very vaguely remembering the details, and she was let go. And I think I said the same thing back then, that she should also be blacklisted from teaching as well, because this is just a cancer in society. Have your own political beliefs, sure, whether it's Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, but when you start spouting off that people should be killed or mocking someone's death who you just don't like, then you have no place in polite society, in my opinion. And speaking of an unpolite society, police in Portland actively shielded Antifa agitators from the Department of Homeland Security.
It goes deeper. Portland police, they've become Antifa bouncers, shielding they-thems from the feds.
And they're running for cover behind Portland police. Oh my God. You've got to be kidding me. Anything, so we're standing there, we don't know what's going on. So it's just like, she's literally running behind you guys. We don't know why she's running. So.
The anarchists suddenly love law enforcement as long as they can use them as human shields. And to the cops' credit, they are cracking down against bad parallel parking.
This is a traffic violation. Oh, okay. This is a traffic violation. All right. Get it out of here. All right, Portland PD shutting this down. It's a traffic violation.
You guys just standing here. I'm just asking you a question. I live here.
Next.
What are you
Do
guys
not
doing?
interrupt me in a traffic stop. Get over there now.
The National Guard, still banned. Trump won the case yesterday, but we're still waiting on one other order. Democrats are demanding troops disobey orders, or else.
The oath of service says that you are obligated to follow the Constitution. There may be times when you face an order from your chain of command that is illegal. And whether or not you follow that order in the moment is going to be a decision that any given soldier or airman or Marine is going to have to make based upon their moral compass.
As long as we're disobeying orders from the federal government, do I still have to pay my taxes? Even though dead bodies are rotting on the street, even though schools have closed down from tear gas, and there's fires every night, Portland's just a walk in the park. It's just a bunch of Teletubbies in the trenches.
Let's just be clear. Portland is not lawless. We have been extraordinary in our resistance to Donald Trump's fairy tale about our city. We must remain steadfast in our peaceful resistance to Donald Trump.
Oregon's governor even coined a new term. It's no longer mostly peaceful. It's playfully protesting.
The use of the crowd control techniques from federal agents was over the top and also would be instigating conflict with the folks who are lawfully protesting. And remember, we have a lot of individuals who are there playfully saying, we don't agree with the federal government, and yet ICE agents are taking it one step further and going out and shooting off tear gas and other things.
Yeah, when Antifa throws rocks and blockades agents from leaving, ICE should just squirt them with water guns.
So good work to Nick Sorter for that kind of footage. Just keep yourself safe out there. Don't know why he's doing this. I guess it's his thing, but good on him. And as you saw in that video, Antifa people were actively shining insanely bright flashlights in the faces of DHS and ICE officers, and local police just sat idly by. It is worrying to think that local law enforcement is shielding domestic terrorists like this from federal law enforcement, and it definitely seems like factions are forming for a bigger conflict in the future. So, as I've also stated before, I support good police, but there's also shitty police out there, and it seems like the entirety of Portland police are in the latter category of that. So, yeah, I would just say stay out of these places where this kind of ideology festers, because it's clear that people like myself are not welcome there. Nor do I want to go there. Now, this next story is the one that I said may get me flagged on YouTube because of the audio that's on the video. But just yesterday, as I record this, a left-wing domestic terrorist was shot by by law enforcement after they tried to ram a U-Haul truck into a police barricade. So this incident took place at the Coast Guard base Alameda in California. No surprise. The driver was wounded by the gunfire and taken to a hospital. He's probably going to recover. And I don't know, in my opinion, sadly, will go to trial and all that stuff, wasting taxpayer money and resources. FBI spokesperson Cameron Polin in San Francisco said, quote, "At this time, the incident appears to be isolated and there is no known current threat to the public." Okay, come on, dude. Like, you know that this is not an isolated incident, and yet is another domestic terrorist attempt on law enforcement because ICE is doing their job. The very job that, you know, the majority of the country elected Donald Trump to do, getting a control on illegal immigration. So honestly, I've had enough of the Trump administration and the FBI as a whole just pussyfooting around with this kind of stuff. It's just, call this exactly what it is and deal with it as such. And as I stated, you know, last week or the week before, like, I don't like the Patriot Act on principle, but it's been the law for, you know, about 20 years now. And the federal government can just spy on everybody whenever. They have to know who is talking on Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, X, Discord, Twitter. I guess it's X. They have to know that these communications are happening. But yet, the stuff isn't being taken care of before. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm asking too much, or asking for something that's not permitted by the law. I don't know. I'm just tired of this. Yeah. Also, I wonder if anything was in the back of that truck. See what I'm saying? Like, don't forget that Timothy McVeigh used a moving truck like this to blow up the Oklahoma City building in the 90s after he and several accomplices filled the truck with explosives. I'm not calling for anybody to do that, but I wouldn't put it past these left-wing terrorists to do something like that. And I'm also glad that something of that sort did not happen. However, it still makes you wonder. So, if any other details come out about that, I will definitely be talking about that next week. Because you just never know with these deranged lunatics. So, since we're staying on the topic of illegal immigration and, you know, shithole states, another illegal alien from India killed people with a big rig, as you see here.
Now take a look. This is exclusive dash cam video that is now the subject of several law enforcement investigations. Shows the moment a red semi-truck plowed into a number of vehicles on the westbound 10 freeway in Ontario just after 1 p.m. yesterday. The CHP told the LA Times the driver of this big rig is a 21-year-old man who is now under arrest on suspicion of driving under the influence of drugs. A total of 4 semis were involved and also 4 passenger vehicles, one of them exploding in flames. 3 people were killed and 4 others were taken to local hospitals. This horrific crash happened just east of the 15 freeway and shut down all westbound lanes for more than 12 hours. Thousands of drivers were trapped in the gridlock just as the evening commute was getting underway. It also happened near the Ontario airport, so the crash likely delayed people that were trying to get to their flights.
Now, apparently, Jashhenpreet Singh, aged 21, God, I can just smell the curry when I say that name, allegedly received a CDL from California before this deadly crash. And as it was stated in the video, authorities said that he was under the influence of drugs when he was driving a semi-truck probably filled with, you know, thousands of pounds of stuff in the trailer. And just from that video, it doesn't even look like he attempted to use the brakes. I mean, so this follows another deadly wreck in Florida a couple months ago involving another driver here illegally from India. and a major bust in Oklahoma where over 100 people were detained for driving big rigs while being here illegally. So, given either false or fraudulent CDL licenses. And as I've stated before, the federal government should just revoke all federal funding to these states that allow unfettered illegal immigration and where the left-wing activists continue to attack ICE and DHS. And as I stated before, I swear to God, I sound like a broken record. It worked with the drinking age laws to rebuild roads. And the federal government pressured each state to increase the drinking age from 18 to 21. And one by one, every single state did so because they lost their federal funding. So that is definitely a tool that the federal government could use, and they should. Now, coming to the end of our Antifa segment here, Kash Patel says the FBI is close to uncovering the sources of funding behind Antifa. Patel did an interview with Just the News and said that the agency, quote, created an entire new program and division dedicated, end quote, to figuring out the, quote, money that is funding these operations, end quote. So hopefully something happens soon and many, many people are arrested because things are already crazy in, certain parts of the country. I'm glad that one of those parts is not my part of the country, but still it is worrying nonetheless. And speaking of worrying, the Secret Service found a tree stand with a clear view of the exit from Air Force One near Trump's Palm Beach residence. Now I saw the picture. It looks weird. But anyway, as a deer hunter myself, I can tell you that this would give someone a better shot of a target on the ground or, slightly elevated from the ground if, coming out of the airplane on the steps on the side of Air Force One. I also find it hard to believe that this was for deer hunting, as this location was right by a runway for a jumbo jet, let alone in a residential, type of area. The noise alone from aircraft would scare off any wildlife that someone would be out there trying to hunt for, and you wouldn't use a tree stand like that for bird watching. Yeah, so this is interesting, weird, and I'm glad that it was caught when it was. So, that's the end of the Antifa segment, I suppose. Now we're moving on to something more interesting, because Candace Owens, the new #1 conspiracy theorist in America, has a new theory about who killed Charlie Kirk.
Just really needed to just take a breather and really process everything that happened with Charlie and what it kind of means in terms of where we are. And I think it is a circumstance where we just know that he was truly betrayed in one of the most egregious ways that I think I've ever seen. It has made me lose faith in politics. It has made me fully lose faith in Trump. And my heart aches for the fact that he gave so much of his life to Trump and to politics. And they just were like, nope, that is it. It serves us or it doesn't serve us, and we want to move on. And so here's a holiday. Bro, if they try to give me a holiday, what is with them giving people a holiday after they kill them? Why is that a thing? You know what I mean? They're like, oh, Martin Luther King, what about this holiday? What about this boulevard? Anyways, let me knock it off. They're going to give Charlie Kirk a boulevard. They already did. They did in Israel. They gave him freaking boulevard. It's like, as soon as they give you a boulevard and a holiday, they definitely killed you. Okay, there's no question. They killed you. There's no way. That's like their signature thing. It's like that's what they do. It's the Fed signature. It's how they sign off after they murder you. They're like holiday and a boulevard. And it's never on a nice side of town either. Like Charlie Kirk Boulevard is not going to be a nice side of town. Anyways, I will be back on the 27th, you guys. Thank you guys for all the support throughout these couple of weeks, these last really kind of 6 weeks since Charlie died. And we will see you guys then.
So now Trump is responsible for the death of Charlie Kirk, even though Charlie was one of Trump's biggest supporters, arguably helped get him elected again, kept rallying for Trump despite some of the controversy. Trump did it. Also, she just said a week or two ago that her receipts proved that Israel did it. So, who did it, Candace? Was it Israel? Was it Trump? Was it some coordination between Trump and Israel? Or was it Tyler Robinson, the guy who was arrested and, had those text messages come out? Yeah. Again, if any of you watch Candace, stop. Please, for the love of God, stop. She is just a grifter at this point and just loves to hear the sound of her own voice. And you may be thinking, oh, you do a podcast too. What about you? Don't you? I honestly don't like hearing the sound of my own voice when I edit these things. But what I do, I think is important. And, I don't just come up, I have come up with my own silly conspiracy theories before, but it was never about something as important as the death of a political figure that also could cause more harm than good. And I always say, when I think of something stupid, this is my own stupid theory, and it's probably not true. So, there we go. So, man, speaking of conspiracy theories, I've got one for this story here, but I'm sure some people have already heard about this. However, when this story first came out, there were a lot of questions around it. A staffer for Congressman Tony Gonzalez was found, and this happened a while back, she was found dead after allegedly lighting herself on fire. However, when details first emerged, everyone who heard about it immediately thought the circumstances were odd. Now, evidence suggests Tony was having an affair with this woman and recently dumped her. How she died is still in question. Now, I guess I should have just left this on. Forgive me if I've mentioned this before, but Tony Gonzalez is facing some stiff competition from Brandon Herrera, and it seems as though Brandon may win the election this time. I sure hope and pray he does. However, in the last 6 months, and this is where my conspiracy theory comes in, 2 horrible crimes have occurred loosely relating to Brandon. The first one was the mass shooting at that Catholic school where the shooter named Brandon in his manifesto, and the second one being the death of Tony's staffer. I have no concrete proof to prove anything like this, unlike Candace Owens and her claims on Charlie Kirk, but it almost seems to me as if someone is trying to sabotage Brandon Herrera's campaign, and sadly people are losing their lives for it. I do not think Brandon Herrera is doing anything like that because he is a well-known YouTube content creator. He is a licensed FFL dealer and, owns fully automatic firearms, which requires intense background checks and licensing and all this stuff. So the paperwork shows that Brandon Herrera is squeaky clean. So again, I am not saying Brandon did any of this. I think somebody is trying to make it appear as such. I think all of that, though, is still going to bite Tony Gonzalez in the ass, and he is going to lose. And if more details come out about the death of his staffer, he may go to jail. We'll see. All right. So, on to something a little bit more lighthearted. Democrats are up in arms over Trump demolishing, the East Wing of the White House and building a ballroom there, which is so silly. However, this outrage seems to be manufactured because he's not the first one to build on to or remodel the White House at all. Some, but not all, notable renovations of the White House include Theodore Roosevelt building the West Wing in 1902, FDR having an indoor pool built in 1933, which has since been covered over and is beneath the press center at the White House. Truman completely gutting the White House and building a bowling alley in 1952, First Lady Jackie Kennedy also renovating the White House and having the Resolute desk restored in 1963, and Barack Obama transforming a tennis court to a basketball court in 2009. Now, as I just read off to you, Republicans and Democrats have both made renovations and building projects onto the White House. So the outrage for Trump for building this ballroom is simply selective outrage and is only meant to get people pissed off even more at Trump. Case closed. So the liberal tears, they taste so good. The Pentagon has a new team of press since many corporate media journalists turned in their press badges. According to the AP, quote, the new Pentagon press corps will include the Gateway Pundit, the National Pulse, Human Events, podcaster Tim Pool, who I've listened to quite a bit. Continuing with the quote, the Just the News website founded by journalist John Solomon, Frontlines by Turning Point USA, and Lindell TV run by MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell, end quote. So if you've been watching my content for a while now, you know I don't trust the corporate media at all, but I still use them as references, I guess, to give myself some validity for what I do here. But it seems like this move is not the death nail in the coffin, but one more nail in the coffin for the likes of CNN and MSNBC. So good riddance. Bye-bye. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Although most of those people are already out. Anyway. Moving on. We're going up north. And not to Michigan, but to Canada. Because Trump killed all trade negotiations with Canada after an ad was premiered in Canada using a quote from Ronald Reagan to criticize Trump's tariffs. Obviously, Trump was not happy about this and addressed that in this post on Truth Social here that you can see. And once heavy criticism came because of this ad, the ad was pulled from television. It seems like those snow commies are really trying to find out after fucking around, because Prime Minister Mark Carney, who's a communist, said he plans to double Canada's exports to countries other than the United States. While we are not obligated, nor do we have a right to anything that is made in Canada, it seems like a really stupid move to not work with the country with which you share a border, especially when that country does most of your international defense for you. And I'm pretty sure I stated the facts a while back, and it's just kind of common sense that the United States military, massively outweighs the Canadian military. So, you would think that Canada's government would want to try to work with Trump, but I guess not. Forgive me today. Nose is runny, throat scratchy. Maybe I got COVID-26 and I don't know it. All right. Staying in Canada, the Canadian government is giving private homes back to Native tribes. According to the Post-Millennial, a British Columbia Supreme Court ruling states, quote, that gave the Cowichan tribe's Aboriginal title to about 7.5 square kilometers, commies, of land on Lulu Island, an area that includes private homes, farms, golf courses, and even port facilities. The August 7th decision said that the nation had exclusive occupation of the land before 1846, meaning Crown-issued titles were unjustifiable infringements, end quote. So it is unclear if the people who just had their homes given away will be compensated for their property in a manner similar to like eminent domain that we have here in the U.S. But this also comes after the Canadian government implemented a voluntary gun buyback program. Which, if you don't know how those work, a voluntary program in this case is not really voluntary, because if you don't voluntarily give up your guns, then you just go to jail. So, it's not voluntary at all. And I know people may say, oh, what about ones, in Texas or New York or Illinois or whatever? Those actually are, but they end up not really working the way that people think they do. Anyway, that's not part of this. So, at the end, Canada is a lost country. And I think the U.S. should annex it all and be greeted as liberators. But the Canadian territory, in my opinion, should not get voting rights. Maybe Alberta. I've always heard that they're like the Texas of Canada. So maybe Alberta could become the 51st state. Everybody else, no. Oh, and if you think you can just move there and, get voting rights, no. Nope, that ain't how this works. Anyway, moving on. It's funny to me also how Canada has become this way, because Canada was the catalyst for international laws during war, such as the Geneva Convention after World War II, but somehow the country since then as a whole has become so soft that their government is just giving their land away. As, land and property that people worked for, took out loans, went into debt for, maybe even have homes that are paid off, and it's just like, nope, that's not yours anymore. Okay, cool. Yeah. But speaking of war crimes, Houthi fighters stormed a UN facility and took roughly 50 hostages. Now, this happened over in the Middle East, in, that undesirable patch of earth. And according to the Associated Press, Jean Alam, a UN spokesperson, said, quote, "The United Nations is taking all necessary measures and is in contact with the relevant authorities and counterparts to ensure the safety and security of all personnel and property." Question: do you really think that hostages taken by an Islamic terrorist organization backed by Iran are really safe? Yeah, this is another reason why you can't trust corporate media anymore. And I know in this video, I used the AP twice, quoted them twice. And again, it's because I want people to make sure that I'm not just coming up with shit out of thin air. Man. Honestly, Iran really needs to get their shit together when it comes to groups like Houthi or Hezbollah, or just get wiped off the face of the earth. You'd think after we sent some spicy Doritos from Missouri to bomb their nuclear plants and come home completely undetected, that they'd chill out. But I guess not. And, maybe it's my bad for giving a country who wants to live as if they're still in the 8th century too much brain power. All right. Moving on. Final story. Japan elected their first woman prime minister, who seems to be even more fed up with illegal immigration than Trump. And forgive me if I mispronounce this name. Sanae Takaichi. I think I nailed that. I'm pretty sure I nailed that. Japan's first woman prime minister has been described as, quote, ultra-conservative, end quote, and is known as the Iron Lady. I think because she really loves Iron Maiden, which makes me like her more. But anyway, she's already facing pushback after the country's election, which just happened like this week. And when I said she's even more fed up with illegal immigration, Japan's illegal immigration problem is like 3% of their population, which pales in comparison to what's going on here in the US and in Europe. But during her first press conference, Takaichi said she will, quote, build a strong Japanese economy and protect Japan's national interests at all costs through diplomacy and security, end quote. And as of now, is looking to reinvigorate trade deals with the United States. So, from what I know about Takaichi, it seems that Japan could have a bright future ahead, and having good trade deals with us could be mutually beneficial. So we will see how that goes. I hope for the best for Japan. I'd like to go there someday. I've actually never traveled outside the U.S. Japan seems like a good place to take a trip to. So I have rambled for nearly 40 minutes now, not including the clips that I'm going to add in throughout this video. So I'm going to get off here, and I will keep my ear to the ground. As I said up top, follow me on all the socials. They're linked below. References below. Take care of yourselves. Stay out of Democrat cities, and keep your head on a swivel. With that being said, take care, and I'll see y'all next time.